Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
There we go. Well, I'm out of isolation.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. So just for the older to come down with it.
Of
So
course. I mean,
yes.
of course, it's going to go right through everybody.
Yeah. So this is his first time. So it's
Ooh,
it's been fun. It's been a fun 2.5 hours.
that's.
Yeah. So school's supposed to start Tuesday for everyone,
Mhm.
but alas.
I mean, one of my friends has it. She just had it in Alaska like 2 months ago, and now she has it.
Does she live in Alaska or did she go to
No,
Alaska to get it?
she was on a cruise.
Oh,
Which
okay.
was terrible. And then my aunt and uncle, but we were having a surprise birthday party for up north. The whole reason we were up north, they both got it. So
Okay.
no party. So it's back.
Yeah. So the cruise wasn't good because of the COVID or because it was a poor cruise?
Because of the COVID.
Okay. No, just wanted to check. I don't think
Yes.
it was as bad this time. The cough was worse. And so I had
Okay.
like 24, 32 hours of like a bad cough and feeling kind of raw in the throat. And other than that, just needed more nappy time.
Yeah, that's kind of how my first round was.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
You and Captain have not been reunited yet?
No, we have not.
You think he's just staring out the window, just putting one paw up to it slowly?
Listening to Mandy.
I was going to say hello, but yeah, that would work too.
I mean, hello's a bit more appropriate. I feel like he's a Lionel Richie fan.
Interesting.
Mhm. But I think he's more of a Commodores kind of guy.
Oh, so he's kind of feeling easy right now.
Right.
Makes sense.
I mean, it is Sunday morning, so.
I was going to say we should probably mention that to people listening.
So people know that we work 7 days a week.
Exactly. That this
24/7.
Always running. Always
we never
going.
stop. Never.
So here's something I saw that was one of those things I saw in the news that I was like, is this because I am I hallucinating this? So there's a town in Massachusetts, Milford. There's too many MIL or MED. So there was police have just shut down an illegal gambling operation centered on backyard volleyball tournaments.
Yes. This sounds
I'm so apparently
fascinating.
people were paid to play in these games. The
Wow.
article said that thousands of people would come out to the tournaments to bet on the games, to buy concessions and alcohol. So concessions, that means like t-shirts, right?
No, that's merch.
Like
Concessions is food, like hot
Okay.
dogs and candy and.
All right.
I was going to say something really inappropriate, but that's because for some reason.
Why stop now?
I know. When I thought of backyard volleyball, I instantly went to naked volleyball.
Right.
Instead of just your friendly backyard game.
I'm just shocked that, so like basically they found them because the neighbors complained saying, hey, there's thousands of people showing up for volleyball. Are people that hard up? I felt like
well, how big is their yard? Let's start with that.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But just like, I mean, how you can bet on everything nowadays. Like you can't, everything you see is like bet here. Or is this just because I'm in Pennsylvania where betting has recently become legal? And so
no, it's the same here.
I can bet on anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have bet on the president's height and weight.
Former president.
A few weeks ago. Former president.
Yes.
Not a political show.
Not a political show. And we would have, it was hard. We were actually right. If there had been a category to say it's not going to be true regardless.
Right. But I didn't realize, I think everything had to they had to clear the boards, because if it's self-reporting, then.
Right. That doesn't count.
Then the under is going to go every time.
I mean, I weigh 130 pounds, right? If I say, and I'm 54, so that I look good for my age.
Right. Which is a weird way to go about it, but
it's a smart way to go about it.
I see what you're saying.
It's a much smarter way.
But they said players were coming from South Carolina to Massachusetts.
I mean, well, let's talk about the players. Like,
Okay.
is this like a super good competitive group of people that maybe played in college, former Olympians? Like, are we
Clearly,
seeing like
there's no
real
pictures.
talent here worth betting on? Or is
I
it
don't-
just,
Well, apparently up to 30 grand were being bet on one game.
wow,
I
how many
just,
games per party?
they didn't say. Card games were also, but one person was arrested, charged with selling liquor without a license, which is always where they get you. It's the Capone
Right.
thing, right?
Right.
Homeowner also arrested. But just I'm shocked. Each weekend night, 30 grand.
Wow. See, they needed to do these in college towns
But
because,
this
like,
is just wait, but that's like what people do in college, not my college, but
right.
other
Yes.
colleges
Yeah. Well,
with like
because you went to a cool college.
practically Ivy.
Right.
No, we didn't have a campus. That's the
Rats and
problem.
all.
Right. But like a campus where people are hacky sacking and playing Melissa on the guitar in the quad.
Yes.
This is what
Yes.
I'm picturing. There was a lot of competitive volleyball going
Well,
on.
it's not even right, but my thought was like having the 1,000 people over. Like when I think of when I went to my, which we've talked about on the show before, so we don't need to talk about it again. But when I went to my sister-in-law's rugby party, there were so many people there,
Right.
and there were so many things that wasn't betting on volleyball, but so many things that neighbors probably would not have appreciated.
Right.
But we were fine. It was a great
to
party.
start with, people on decks.
Right.
Always you see deck parties.
Of
Problem
course.
number one.
But in a neighborhood, this would be a problem.
And you would assume neighborhood, I mean, they said homeowner, so an adult was present.
Well, yeah, we think, unless it was like some sort of genius gambling mobster.
You think this is like Kidco?
What if it's like Bugsy Malone?
Yes, exactly.
I think it's Bugsy Malone.
Well, Bugsy Malone was where they were shooting marshmallows, but Kidco is the one where they
Bugsy Malone was Scott Baio
and Jodie Foster
and Jodie Foster,
who went straight from the set of Bugsy Malone to the set of Taxi Driver.
Of course she did, which made perfect sense.
Yes, but I thousands of dollars every, like, how much? That's, you got it. It's adults. It's got to be adults.
Yeah.
So you're out of college. Are you looking to kind of recapture the joy of being in college?
I don't know.
I can't think of much joy from being in college, but that's, again,
I had
different
some joy
colleges.
in college, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But volleyball wasn't, I mean, beach volleyball, sure. Like, that's the other thing is, like, if this was happening like Top Gun style,
playing with the boys,
playing with the boys, if I had Kenny Loggins and six-pack abs to bet on, who had the best aviator sunglasses,
Goose,
right? Will Maverick actually be able to win the game wearing those sweltering hot sweaty ball full-length jeans while everyone else is in shorts and a bathing suit? Yes, he will.
My money's on Mav,
because he's Maverick.
But there's no
and
reference
still go over and make out with Kelly McGillis. Thank God they wrote in the shower, because it's all I would have thought of.
Good point.
Even at the tender age of 10.
Yeah. Well, you're wise beyond your years.
It's something like that.
What was the initial idea that made you think, Vegas might be the good place to set a futuristic hellscape?
Well, let's consider the history of Las Vegas, which is rife with sin and military considerations.
Yes.
This is.
Were you at the Luxor at the time?
Well, yes, I worked in the Luxor, in the bowels, the basement of the Luxor for many years.
Okay.
As well as Mandalay Bay, MGM Grand, Bellagio, Excalibur, all the major strip properties. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Las Vegas is a big convention town.
What?
Oh, yes. The Luxor tried to kill me at CES one year, so yes.
I'm
It did. So I was ready. I'm like, okay, this tracks.
Yes. Well, the drone tech conventions started appearing here, I guess, in the the mid 2000s is when they began. And because I had my employee badge, I could sneak around and crash these events, pretending to I pretended to offer help. And so I would just walk through the aisles of this 1 million square foot plus convention space, and row after row, table after table, display after display of military drones, law enforcement drones,
Oh.
Surveillance drones. And I began to contemplate how horrible this would be should the technology find its way to, I don't know, into the hands of young people. We think we have problems now. Just imagine a 3D printer creating these things at a fast clip, and you've got a serious dystopian scenario on your hands. So yeah, it was the horror, the fright, the anxiety of attending, breaking into these drone tech conventions and seeing what weapons were being made available. And it's really shady. I mean, there are foreign dignitaries there looking to shop. There's law enforcement. There's the connection between higher education, particularly engineering programs, and these drone tech companies is something that I found unsettling. So I thought, why not push this as far as I can take it and imagine a scenario in which teenagers are trapped and ruined in Las Vegas and recruited to join a paramilitary school that's tasked with, I don't know, keeping Hoover Dam operational and using drones to maintain law and disorder. So that's what prompted this piece and this novel. And YA dystopian novels are everywhere, and they seem to be really hot. That part of Barnes and Noble seems to be metastasizing.
Yes.
That and the manga, I guess.
Right.
Yep.
Those are the only growing areas. I think they're even eclipsing the regular fiction section and all the other genres combined. So I just thought this would be a great idea. And what I didn't anticipate, of course, was falling in love with these characters. So I thought I was going to write this scary novel with a message. And I eventually ended up just cutting out all the messaging and political stuff and just told a story about these human characters. And it was funny. I mean, writing the novel taught me so much and taught me a lot about music. I don't know if you've had a chance to flip through the book, but it's rife with hard rock, glam metal,
yes,
hair metal music, which is music that I enjoyed as a teenager, but I didn't really fully understand. I had this hipster goth part of me that wanted to stick to The Cure and Joy
them
Division.
all.
Yeah, no, I could totally see, Unknown Pleasures as the
Right.
soundtrack to this,
Yes.
makes complete sense.
That's the antagonist's initial soundtrack until the main character sort of gets him to appreciate the pleasures of Motley Crue and Alice Cooper.
So was that initial idea of, I'm assuming you did not sleep for several days after witnessing all of these things.
Oh, correct.
All of these wares. When you
Correct.
said, let's take something terrible and make something good out of it, how quick was that idea to just be like, oh, okay, the world has gone the wrong direction, and was this just sort of like the entire thing came to you pretty quickly, or?
Well, I sat on the idea. I sat on these anxieties, these fears, and thinking that, well, maybe this is too ridiculous. It won't work, But of course, a few years ago, I found myself with a little bit of time, and I said, let's just bring this to life and let's make it happen. And I wrote it. I don't know if you noticed, like an 80s movie.
We were just talking about that.
I grew up watching classic films like Empire Strikes Back,
Of course,
Red Dawn, Conan the Barbarian, Howard the Duck, Sheena,
Yes.
Kroll.
All excellent films in their
Billie
own
Jean?
right.
I've got
I'm
now
getting
free associating.
well, I get like I was
Girls
gonna
just
say,
want to have fun.
oh yeah, but like a Legend of Billie Jean, I feel like comes in
Yes.
here too.
Yes.
Especially given I think the main character.
Mhm.
So how long did it take? Because this is your first novel, correct? You've
Yes,
done
I
a bunch
was.
of other stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that was all mercenary work for hire. They wanted me to write a biography of the Killers because I had spent some time with them as they were forming the band, and so I did that for quick money. I did some travel guides, and I worked as an entertainment journalist in the early to mid 2000s before I figured out I could make twice as much money writing corporate casino propaganda for the major strip property. So, and I continued to freelance as well. So I went to a lot, and I mean a lot of rock shows, club shows, concerts here in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
And this is just a, people don't know it, I think, but they're not aware of it. But this is a real rock and roll town.
Oh yeah, of
Lots
course.
of underground punk, underground metal, and then the strip, of course, is alive, teeming with, bands. And around the time that I started thinking about this novel, all those residencies were happening. Def Leppard, GNR, Motley Crue, and I
Manilow, sure, yeah.
started checking out these shows, and that was inspiring me to go back and like really mine, really plumb what it was about that era in popular culture that I found so inspiring. I don't think, initially I thought it's just because that was my era. I grew up in that time, and that's why it's special. But then I started thinking about it, and there really was something magical and liberating about pop culture prior to the digital age, to
I
the
totally agree.
CGI process. You can hear it in the music. An analog 80s hair metal record just sounds different. It's got more soul, it's got more energy, more attitude, more mistakes, more flaws. You can hear the humanity in it. And I love that a lot of those bands continue to make music today, but honestly, the digital sheen that you hear, I mean, it sounds so, I don't know what the word is, but just obvious to my ear. And I don't, I enjoy it, but I don't appreciate it in the same way that I appreciate an old, Wasp record. So I wanted to, and of course, my character gets close to making a comment on why she listens to her dad's, Walkman heavy metal collection. But for me, it was about returning to that attitude, that energy, that spirit. And it was a wild time. The 80s were really rough and feral. I mean, the way I remember it is, there were serial killers on the loose.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And we could still walk by ourselves and get
Yes, but
home,
we still
at 11 at night. It's fine.
And watch the after school special about why
Yes,
drinking and then driving with all your friends in the back of the truck is a terrible idea.
Right.
right.
Is that
And
Michelle
then,
Pfeiffer? Anyway, yes.
And then watch Cujo unattended.
there was something about, I wanted to capture that spirit and that way of living in the characters and in their situation, both in the grimy confines of Luxor, as well as in the more elite, refined arena of City Center, which is a more recent casino edition, hotel casino shopping district on the Strip. And I just had fun thinking about making a fun novel that offered a scary conceit, a scary concept, but I wanted to offer that bright darkness that 80s movies give us. I can't explain. Aliens is a terrible movie, but in the end, Ripley wins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, there's always a setback. It's always bittersweet, but she always kills the monster at the end, and that's what I wanted to present with this book. And I think we need to get back to that in terms of pop culture entertainment. Those of us who write or produce or make music, I think we have to take a step back, remove ourselves just a bit from the digital realm, and go back to sweating more and drinking Coca-Cola out of aluminum can and
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
push-ups in our rooms, flinging those nunchucks around and
Yes.
getting back to that visceral.
Making actual Kool-Aid.
Yes, remember that? Yeah, exactly. Not the stuff that's pre-made. Like
No, you got to mix it and it chunked up and the sugar ratio wasn't right. Yes.
chalky sensation on your tongue and
Yes. You
lips.
haven't lived until you've had that.
So I want to encourage us to drink out of that. We see that meme on Instagram. I want us to go back to drinking out of the garden hose in the backyard after we've played some, football in the front yard or whatever.
For sure.
So
I agree.
how long did it take you to write this? Because again, like we were saying, you had a whole career and then some, both literary and otherwise. I don't know if we want to call Casino Propaganda literary, but
No.
you know what we're saying.
Yes,
You know
I
what
was
we're
writing
going
for
for.
money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Two of the most important things to write for.
Oh yeah, and I don't want to downplay that. Writing for money is the ultimate validation, and I love writing a 200-word album review and getting paid $40.
Yeah.
That gave me as much pleasure, honestly, as publishing this novel. But the book came quickly, but it required 2 long sessions, like 2-3 month writing jags, and I wrote half of it in an abandoned summer camp in Michigan.
Wait, where?
There we go.
Where is said camp?
It's up there somewheres. I don't know if I should say.
Well, you could say we could cut it out just for my knowledge.
Yeah, just for
because I'm a Michigander. I'm a Michigander. So
show him where you are in the mitten. Yeah.
It has.
Well, I'm either here or I'm here. These are the 2 places you can find.
It has
me.
2 names. It's Lake of the Woods or Greenwoods camps.
Okay, I know. All right. Yes.
Southwestern Michigan, you might call it.
Yep. All
but
right.
I flew into Chicago and we drove over.
Yes, as many do.
Okay. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it was a beautiful area.
It is a beautiful area.
And then, interestingly enough, I wrote the second half in Littleton, Colorado, where I have family.
Okay.
And I wrote it just a few, maybe less than a few miles away from Columbine High School. So that was on my mind. I didn't intentionally end up there. I had some family there who offered a place for me to stay and get work done. But I thought about that as I was writing, and that's kind of like the ugly side of technology, which is that if it ends up in the hands of people who aren't supposed to be using it or don't know how to use it the right way, it can go haywire. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that I had a bright darkness. I didn't want this to be a Jeremiah where I'm just no, this is bad. I didn't want to write 1984 by George Orwell. Right. I wanted to rewrite Shane by Jack Schaefer or Top Gun or something fun. I wanted to create some fun out of a dark situation so that people would want to read it and fall in love with these characters, especially the main character Lash, who had a rough go of it and is turning 21, which means she's the primary target for the enemy warlord.
Well, that's Logan's Run. I mean, come on here. Yeah.
Exactly. You can see all the and I make the tips of my hat, my nods are pretty obvious, but only if you've absorbed all these movies.
Well, it seems like the demographic and the readers who will most appreciate this are people who will catch those things and go, oh, nice, he worked that in. There's that one.
Yeah, I wrote it for young people, but it's perfect for Gen Xers, even boomers. I mean, the baby boomer response to this book has been outstanding. I mean, they get it. They know what I'm.
Well, YA is, in title alone, right? I mean, the people, the age span of people who love that genre is just massive.
Oh yeah, I mean, grown-ups love YA, and
they're more rabid about it than.
Yes.
And that's good. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I agree. So it in some ways it's a book for all ages, although I wouldn't, I'd hesitate to give it to a 7-year-old or whatever, but it's obviously too heavy. Although when I was 7, I was
I know
watching
some
I was
Diovan
gonna say,
7-year-olds.
I was reading, yeah,
Dawn of the Dead.
absolutely. Yes.
Kids are a little sheltered to a degree today, I think. So I did want to write something that was hard, but not, gross or
Well, but I think it has that tone, because like when you're saying, and some of the things you're name checking, especially when you bring in things like writing half the book in Littleton and having that on your minds, and the
Mhm.
idea, the Blackwater type
Yes.
things, it does become a lot and overwhelming and depressing. And it, for me, it brings to mind a little bit that film, the documentary National Bird. I don't know if
Oh
you saw
yeah.
that one,
Yeah.
but I think it makes all the sense in the world too, that you were just like, this has to have a happy ending. There's got to be some promise in
Mhm.
this is not how all we die. Because I feel like so many, mostly documentaries, you spend a lot of time being like, well, this is going to be the thing that kills us all.
Doom
And
spiraling.
it's just a race to which one's going to be more successful first.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But that you do have that kind of positive outlook.
Well, I mean, there's a point when the characters are overwhelmed by swarming giant
Life, yeah.
carnivorous
Yeah.
flying
Mhm.
flamingos.
Yes. Which
Sorry,
is exactly
spoiler
how
alert.
I would go.
Yeah.
Exactly. It made total sense.
And one character says to the other, "It can't end like this." And I think Lash says something to the effect, "No, it won't. We're gonna kill these flamingos." But even that is I'm tipping the hat to Thomas Harris's Hannibal
Mhm.
novel, which has the carnivorous pigs in it.
Yes.
You may remember the swarms of aggressive, violent.
All too well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
This
So
seems like this was a lot of fun to write. Just hearing you, like,
Oh,
as
yeah.
you're recounting these things, you're giggling and like, oh yeah, we got flamingos in here. Like, you must have had a really good time coming up with all this stuff.
I did. Well, I borrowed a lot. I stole. I mean, the flamingos are stolen from Sheena at the end of the movie, where she telepathically summons the flamingo swarm
Mhm.
of that 80s movie.
Yes.
But yeah, I had a blast just trying to pile on as many 80s references as I could, but also not just stealing them, but converting them, transforming them into something new and something the reader hadn't encountered before. And that was the real fun of it, was just taking something that I had loved as a child and then amplifying it, cranking it up to 11, 12, 13, going all the way until really the story almost runs completely off the rails. But I did that intentionally. I wanted it to be to offer a moment where, like, is the author going to be able to pull this off? Is Lash going to actually survive this? I had so much fun with the twists at the very end, because that to me is the ultimate move in storytelling, is where you take someone to the very brink of despair and you're like, oh, they pulled it off. How did they do that? But you make it,
Yeah.
quote unquote, believable.
Right.
And we don't know that they pulled it off. You might twist it
Yeah.
again because
Mhm.
people haven't read it yet.
Right.
Speaking of spoiler alerts.
I'm also of the mind too that,
This could be a foil.
yes. I had 3 books mapped out. But I didn't want to be that person that has 3 unpublished novels in their
I
Mhm.
on their
totally
hard
get that.
drive.
Yes.
So I wrote the one thinking, if it sells well enough, I'll go back and write the other 2, if by popular demand.
Are they related? Are they like
Oh yeah,
in the series? Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
Lash. The third novel, I send Lash into outer space. She goes to Mars to wage a drone war on another planet. So
Oh, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I got
yes,
you. Yeah, I see
Yes.
that. No. Yeah, no, I've read way too many spec screenplays
yeah.
that on page 180, it's like to be continued in part 2. I'm just like, no, please.
One
My
at a
God.
time.
Yeah. No, it's
I love it.
fascinating. And again, just so how long did it take you to write it? You said 2 big spans, like 3 months,
Yes.
was that each?
Yes, but as I was doing it, I was also teaching a creative writing workshop.
Yeah.
So, especially that first chunk. So I went to Michigan for maybe like 10 days. But throughout that semester, I was teaching a creative writing workshop and sharing chapter after chapter or at least one chapter a week with my students.
Oh, wow.
But I wasn't doing it to like, use them as, what do they call it, beta readers or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Road test it
Right.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to build something in front of them, like in real time, and
Right.
show them what it takes in terms of discipline and commitment and, momentum.
But also that's almost like, that's a scary audience.
Yes.
Your students would be like, that's a very scary audience.
Especially since I didn't have time to revise. I was writing
Right.
this
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
a few hours before class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like they were.
It's like reality. It's like, so that's good. This is how it really goes.
But you know what? It worked, and they started bringing their chapters in. This was not a trunk novel. They were not, I told them, I'm not reading any old stuff on your hard drive. You have to produce it fresh, and I'll be able to tell, because you can tell, when they bring in something old and that they presented in another workshop. And you know what? It worked. They started bringing in chapters, bringing in work every week, and we'd read it aloud. These classes they meet once a week and are like, nearly 3 hours long. So we had plenty of time to stretch out and just, it was fun to watch them get the bug, get the, the momentum and start producing work at a fast clip, because too often I think we don't understand. I understood a little bit better as a journalist, but you have to make deadlines for yourself as a creative people. If you don't do a show every week, or write a article every week, or a short story every month or so, you've got nothing to show. You've got nothing to sell. You've got nothing to build your reputation on. So I found it completely inspiring to watch my students not only produce this stuff, but also get it published. So by the 15th week of class, the end of the semester, they were having their work accepted for publication in the student newspaper, the student literary journal, the neighboring community college literary journal, the local publications, regional publications here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's where it was, I got the most pleasure and satisfaction from bringing this project, sharing this project with my students, because without them, I wouldn't have done it. And without me sort of showing them how to be a consistently productive a creative, they were able to find success on their own. And I'm not talking 1 or 2 students. I mean, like, 11, 12, 13 students in that class of 15 or 18 are now producing work. They're
That's amazing.
freelancing or doing whatever. And that is where I derive the most joy.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Well, I feel like too, that sort of creative circle, which I think is what that thing where, because I've always found in similar scenarios, when you give someone like oh, you should do this, and then you immediately start thinking about your own work and being, do I do that? I got to not do that. I mean, that's got to be great, to say nothing of that immediate feedback of like, does this fly? Is this interesting? What mistakes am I making? That's because I feel like that kind of professorship puts you in a great place to, you got to answer all the questions that you're making them answer too.
Well, my students told me flat out, Professor, this is cringy. You got to get rid of this. Okay.
And they used the word cringy, right?
I believe they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds about right.
It's fairly recent that this was noted. So, and I did. I removed that part, and I think it's better for it because of their feedback and their comments. But not many professors not many professional people want to put themselves in that position where they get feedback. Criticism, feedback from the people they're paid to, or evaluate, grade. So you kind of have to allow yourself to be vulnerable.
You're definitely going there with your heart in your hands, and please don't hurt this. Have you looked into, because the cover itself makes me think, oh, graphic novel. And just visually, there's so much stuff in here. Just the idea of the drones, some of the ways you describe them, like it seems like the perfect, have you looked into that, or are you just interested in continuing Lash's story and getting to Mars?
Well, if I could draw, I would definitely make it a graphic novel. But tasking someone else with illustrating your ideas is always a little, I think, kind of dicey. The book is dedicated to Jack Kirby, who's the co-creator, of course, Marvel Universe. And the Hammer of the Dogs is in many ways just a riff on Commandy, the Last Boy on Earth. which was a Jack Kirby title from that he did for DC Comics in the 70s, and even OMAC, One Man Army Corps, which was a Future Shock dystopian comic book he did for 7 or 8 issues in the 70s for DC as well. But the idea that that a book could be adapted into a film is what was mainly guiding me. Like, I felt like I wanted to capture that feeling, or offer that feeling, the possibility of the feeling of walking into a library and picking up Stephen King's The Stand, or, really any kind of what was then considered trash fiction, and pulpy adventure nonsense. I love that stuff. And even though I'm a professor of English and I teach American literature and the graphic novel, I wanted to embrace the pulpy side of fiction. I didn't want to shy away from it. And of course, when you read the novel, there are some literary stuff happening. It's not,
you can't get too far from that tree in some ways.
Right.
Do you think it's something I'm always interested in with writers, because it seems like it ebbs and flows with sort of the ghettoization of genre fiction, and some people run towards it. I mean, to my mind, Michael Chabon's the first one to be like, no, it's a book, it's nothing else. Do you see that in the in the kind of college university community of that stuff breaking out, and people just being like, it's either a good story or it's not, it's a good book, it's well written, or it's not?
I think there's increasing interest in popular culture and popular fictions, and Hollywood cinema, video games. One of my colleagues here is a major video game scholar. Her name's Amy Green, and she writes academic books on her appreciation for this art form. But I do think that there's a tendency to pick up a piece of pop culture and then try to figure out if it's broccoli, or if it's secret broccoli, or if it's just, well, that's really what it is. They're just trying to evaluate its moral qualities in terms of does it reinforce the stereotypes, or does it subvert the tropes or whatever. And so they're always evaluating it in that respect, which is sort of interesting. But I wanted to create something that was almost free of all of that. I wanted to present a novel that really shouldn't be academically analyzed. I wanted it to be a visceral, emotional roller coaster ride. I wanted it to be like a Stephen King book from the 80s. And so when I go into this department, I have to realize, there's different expectations here. Not everyone is reading a book for pleasure. They're reading it to get tenure, or to write something new or high-minded about the author, the story, the poem. And so it's just a different set of considerations. But yes, I do think there's a growing. There's more every year. There's more and more dissertations written on Nine Inch Nails, Hunger Games, Top Gun, even. But it'll be like Top Gun and gender or something, like that, which is fun and interesting. But I'm not really so interested in writing about that stuff. I want to present stuff that's to be analyzed, that's to be discussed, to be talked about.
Yeah. Hammer of the Dogs from Jarret Keene is available from the University of Nevada Press wherever you get your books, starting September 12th. For more information, check out their website, unpress.nevada.edu.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters, located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?